Hey everybody, Hunter, Fisher, Trapper, Trader, Guide, Scout, and Interpreter, and just a country cook, Steve Hall, here in Nashville, Tennessee, along with pretty Miss Sheila running that camera. Hi, Sheila.
Hi.
Today we're going to do seared pork tenderloin, medium rare. That's right, I said it, medium rare. Now, I come from a household that my dad used to cook pork to death. I mean, hey, you're going to all die of botulism. Who left the fork in the mayonnaise? You got to throw that away because that's poison now. I grew up in that kind of family. But back in 2011, as a shock to most people out there that cook pork or don't cook pork because it's the other dry white meat, the USDA lowered the safe internal temperature on pork from 160 to 145. Let me show you a graph here. Now here's a chart from the USDA, recommended safe minimum internal temperatures. Now if you look over there on the left, you'll see turkey, chicken, and duck, whole pieces or ground. They don't care if it's whole ground or even in chunks. They want you to cook it to 165. Now let's skip clear over to the right. Beef, pork, veal, lamb, ground. So if you're using pork ground up for like hamburgers or meatloaf, they want you to cook it to 160. But in 2011, look what the middle chart says. Beef, pork, veal, lamb, steaks, roasts, and chops, 145 internal temp with a 3-minute wait time. Man, we're going to make this so delicious today doing that 145 internal temp. And I use these pork tenderloins instead of the pork loin, which is about that big around. Pork tenderloins about that big around. We want that tenderness, because I don't want it to cook and cook and cook and cook to get to 145 in the middle, because a pork tenderloin will only cook a little bit, about 10 or 15 minutes. It's going to hit 145. We're going to take our little meat thermometer, we're going to set it at 138, and when it hits 138, we're going to take it out of the oven, and I'll bet you $1 to a donut it goes to 145. Then we're going to let it rest for more than the USDA recommended 3 minutes, because I want the juices to soak back in. But when you slice it, it's going to be pink. I know it's going to scare you to death because you probably got 2 or 3 thermometers in your drawer at home that says, look, right here it says safe temperature pork, 160 degrees. They still do. A lot of them you buy in the store. But you don't have to do that. Look it up on YouTube, look it up on Google. You'll see that the USDA in 2011 lowered pork temps safe internal chunks now, not ground, and I'll explain that in a minute, but the big pieces to 145. Now if you see this pork tenderloin and it doesn't look like the one in the store, that's because I whacked this little end off of here and I chopped this little piece off of here. Now I kind of squared it up because I want it to cook evenly. These little end pieces that get thinner, they get so done, I'm not really going to eat it anyway. You can fold it over and tie it up with some string to make it about the same size as the rest, and tie this up with a string. But I didn't have any string for either end, so I just trimmed it off to make it nice and uniform looking. This is our pork tenderloin here, and I'll wash my hands when I get done, but I'm going to get my fingers involved. Now you're probably asking, why do you have to cook ground meat to 160, but if you leave it whole it's only 145? That's because the outside of it can build a little bit of bacteria, and when we sear it in this pan over here, all the way around as we roll it in the pan and sear it up golden brown before we pop it in the oven, it kills everything that's on the outside, any bacteria or anything. But when you take this chunk of meat and drop it in a meat grinder, any bacteria that's on the outside gets ground into the inside. So even if you cook the outside of a burger patty, that outside bacteria has been ground into the inside, so they want you to cook it to 160 so it gets down in there and kills what used to be on the outside is now on the inside. I hope that makes sense. I love medium rare hamburgers, but restaurants in most cases won't cook it medium rare because they've bought their beef, and if they don't know where it came from, they've ground it up and made patties, and the internal could have bacteria. So with all that said, we're going to season this baby up here. Let me get a little paper towel and clean my fingers. I got some seasoning here from McCormick Grill Masters pork butt. Well, this is pork, so we're going to put it on there. And what I like about this, before I open the lid here, is the #1 ingredient is chili, peppers, spices, herbs, all kinds of goodies, black pepper, brown sugar, garlic, then salt. I got about 15 different famous, world famous spices back here on the shelf that I can sit out here. Let me turn around. and I won't mention any by name, but the #1 ingredient in all of them is salt. You can buy a salt container that big at the store for 74 cents. Why would you pay $3.50 for some spices when all of it is salt? This particular pork rub by Grill Masters, it's got the little McCormick label. I think they kind of changed companies. But that's what we're going to use because it's not going to over salt this pork tenderloin, not pork loin. Let me shake it out so I don't stick my fingers back in the spices there. We're going to get this seasoned up, and then we're going to start up my little, whoa, I got plenty there, didn't I? Well, that's good because I can just rub it in there then. Maybe that's why they call it pork rub, because you just rub it on, huh? How am I doing, Sheila?
You're doing good. So far, so good.
So far, so good. And if I start goofing up, you'll tell me. All right, we got this pork tenderloin seasoned up nice, and we're going to sear it in our pan. Let's move our pan front and center. All right, our little cast iron frying pan's getting plenty hot. I'm going to pour in, about 2 tablespoons cooking oil. You probably get by with 1. But I will tell you this. Let me slide that oil around a little bit. I will tell you this, is not only did I cut the little ends off of that pork tenderloin, but I also trimmed off all the silver skin, and you want to do that. You want to cut off all the silver skin so it's just got a nice piece of meat. All right, I got a little thermometer I'm going to do a show on, and it's got a little laser beam. Whoa, it says 450 degrees right now. That is plenty. So let's, beautiful thing. We're going to put our pork tenderloin in there. We're going to sear it up real good. Now if you start searing this up and you go to pick the meat up and it's stuck, that means it's not cooked enough. Just leave it there and it'll cook a little bit and it'll kind of release itself. All right, let's see here. I'm going to go to medium high. We want to sear this, and we're going to turn it quarter turns and get a nice sear all the way around. And then we're going to put our little thermometer inside there. All right, let me turn it all the way over so you can see it. Don't that look beautiful, Sheila?
Yes.
Awesome, awesome. See if I can't get that standing up. And while it's doing that, you can kind of help shape the meat itself by pushing it into the shape that you want there, because it's going to firm up as it sears up. Alright, we're going to turn this another quarter turn to about right there. Boy, that's looking really good. Alright, one more quarter turn. I'm going to go ahead and kick that up on high a little more, just to give it a nice sear. Alright, we got a beautiful sear all the way around here, and I'm kind of cheating and just give it a few more turns. It's got a little crust to it here and there. Oh yeah, that looks good. Beautiful thing. Now we got all our seasoning on the outside with a nice little golden brown crust. We're going to move this to a plate, let this cool off just a little bit, and I'm going to shut this down for just a second. And I'm going to save all these little crumblies in here because we're going to make a sauce that goes on top of this medium rare, that's right, I said it, medium rare pork tenderloin. Once you eat pork tenderloin like this, you will never cook pork chops to death again. You'll eat it this like, oh man, it's so delicious. Let me move this over. Alright, while our little pork tenderloin is cooling down a little bit so we can handle it, you'll notice that the temperature of this probe is 79 degrees, and the 138 is the preset that I put in this little cheap ThermPro $17 out of Amazon meat thermometer with a nice long cord probe on the end. I can leave this in the meat, put this on the outside of the oven, and we're going to bring it to 138 because when we pull it out of the oven, it's still going to raise in temperature, and I want it to stop around 145. If it goes by a couple clicks, I can live with that, but I want this nice and pink in the middle, and safe temperature, USDA 145, I know because I've been eating these things for years now, is 145. So we're going to take the thickest part of this, pork tenderloin, and we're going to kind of go in at almost about a 60-degree angle there or whatever. We're going to get to the center, right there of the thickest part of that little pork tenderloin, and let's see what it says. It says it's 88 degrees. Now let me show you something. Let me run this down to below 88 degrees. Because if that was heating up and I had it set on 87, the little alarm, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see it, Sheila? There.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Can you hear my little alarm going off? I'm holding it up by the microphone.
Yeah.
But that's what it's going to sound like. See, now I went to, it's already 90 in there. See, I went to 91. When this goes up 1 degree, that alarm will go off. But I'm going to put it on 138. Tell me which way to tilt this so you can see it. In the camera, can you see it?
Yeah, I see it now.
Okay.
Now I can't. Now I can.
See, I can't see it when you can, but let me get it to 1. There's 138. I'm going to set this in the oven on this little rack right here. And I'm going to run the wire outside of the oven. And I'm going to bake this until it hits 138. Then I'm taking this out of the oven and I'll bring this in and show you what it goes up to. Let's get it in the oven at 375 degrees until this 88 degrees over here reaches 138 and the alarm goes off. Then we'll be back. All right, our pork tenderloin is in the oven. We're listening for that little alarm to go off at 138 degrees. And we're going to use the little crumblies where we fried that. And we're going to deglaze this pan with a 1/4 cup of chicken stock to get all the goodies off the bottom. Beautiful thing. And then we're going to add a 1/4 stick of butter, and I'll put all the ingredients below the video. Don't worry about that. We never have you go to a website or a blog or whatever to find our recipes. They're always right underneath the video. And if you look under the video, sometimes you'll only see the words show more after a couple lines. Just click on show more and this whole entire recipe will drop down, because I'm going to type it in as soon as I get in the other room in editing, of what we did to make this sauce that we're making. This is a sauce we're going to pour over the top of that pork tenderloin that is absolutely outstanding. Again, 1/4 cup of chicken stock, 1/4 stick of butter, 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. Getting better. With all the drippings from that pork that we did. Then we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. That's right, I said it. Here we go. 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. You're going to love this sauce. You're going to probably use it on all kinds of stuff. Again, you can put it on pork chops, roast pork, anything, but we're going to put it on our sliced, medium rare pork tenderloin. Let me turn this down even more. Then we're going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper in there. All right, now I added a little cornstarch slurry. 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, 1 tablespoon of water mixed together, and slowly drizzled it in. And look how nice and thick our sauce got. I even added a little more heavy whipping cream. That's why it got that lighter color. But just kind of play with it. Once you get it close to that consistency, you're going to love it no matter how it turns out. But I added just about another, couple, 3 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream. And I added a little cornstarch slurry. And if you don't know what that is, that's an equal amounts water and cornstarch. And I used a tablespoon of each. Just a tablespoon of water, tablespoon of cornstarch. Whipped it up, added it to our sauce, and look how beautiful our sauce is. And then Sheila ran in the other room and got me this pretty little gravy boat. And I'm going to get me another mitt over here. I'm going to turn this sideways so I don't miss. I'm going to pour this in here for right now. Oh, boy, that looks so good, and trust me, it tastes even better. Wow. let's go in and listen for our alarm, and when it hits 138, I'm going to bring it back in here and we're going to watch the temperature rise together. We'll see you in a minute. Hear the alarm? Just hit 138 degrees. Just out of the oven. And as soon as it hit that, I'm going to put this over here so it don't slide off the counter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out of this pan, set it on our little cutting board. Let me move this over here. And let's take a look and see what we will see. Alright, the internal temperature is already 142 degrees. Next time I'm taking it out at 135, but it's already at 142. Now if I run this thermometer up to 145, which is the safe internal temp, let's see how long it takes for the little alarm to go off. Can you see that temperature, Sheila?
Turn up just a little bit more. Okay.
Perfect. Can you see it now?
Yeah, it's perfect.
All right, so right about there you can see it if I keep it at that angle.
Right.
Okay, good. All right, but it's already at 142 and we took it out at 138. And look at it, 144. Golly, I didn't think that small of a piece of meat would go up that far after you took it out, but it sure is. It's already at 144. Bingo, we made it. Hear the alarm, Sheila?
Yes.
Let me hold it up here. 145 and 145. Let me tell you, I was kind of sweating it because that last 1 degree took like 2 minutes to finally reach. Now remember, we got to give this a 3-minute rest after it reaches 145 according to the USDA. But that chunk of meat is going to be, I'm so glad it took that long to get to 145 because I didn't want it to go to 150 or 155 because then you're eating dry pork. I see so many recipes where they cook it to 150, 155, then they take it out of the oven. That's why you guys probably don't eat a lot of pork from the store, is because it's the other dry meat. The other white dry meat is not what the inside of this is. Wait till you see this. All right, our timer's going. Let me run this up to I'll just go to 147 just in case it goes up another couple of degrees. But either way, it made it to 145. We're already 40 seconds into our 3-minute wait, and we'll be back to slice this in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. See you then. Man, I'm going to have to go to the casino. I am the luckiest guy in the world. Looky here, it went back down to 144. So it went to exactly 145. So here's my recipe to you guys. Get any size pork tenderloin, not pork loin, but the smaller one. You can cut the ends off if you want, like me, and I'm going to chop that up and put it in a slow cooker with some vegetables, cook that pork to get a nice uniform little roast here. But I'll tell you, I would put it at 140. Take it out of the oven at 140. It'll definitely go to 146, 147. I can live with that. It's been over 3 minutes. Let's go ahead and pull our little probe out of here. Can you believe that, Sheila? It went to exactly 145.
That turned out good.
That turned out perfect. Now wait till you see what you will see. This is absolutely wonderful. I'm going to kind of cut this end off at an angle. And it's already slightly pink right there. And I'm going to cut this end off at an angle. Oh, it's so tender. That is so tender. It is so not like pork chops cooked to death. And the reason I'm cutting it at an angle is I want to do the same with my little serving pieces. That way you get a little bit bigger of a piece, because tenderloins are pretty small. If you just cut it straight across, it would be little circles, but at an angle you get a little bit bigger piece here. You know, when I bought the package, it had 2 pork tenderloins in it, so there's another one in the kitchen. Oh man, I'm going to have Sheila get a super close-up as soon as I get this sliced so you can see what I'm talking about. Now if you've got that thermometer at home that says safe temp pork 160 and you don't want to believe the USDA after 2011, cook it to death. If you want to cook it to 150 and do all that stuff, you certainly can. But let me lay this open. Sheila, take a look at this. Let's get a real close-up of this meat.
Okay.
Looky here. Juicy. I mean, look at the juice. Medium rare, pink in the middle, Look at this little piece when I push on it. Look at the juice come out of this thing. You will no longer, if you cook it this way one time, you will no longer cook pork roast dry to where nobody wants to eat it. You can just cut it with a fork, just so easy. And let me taste. Get a little of this juice here. This is buttery, soft, melt in your mouth pork. Unbelievable. I got to drag this piece out right here, right from the center. That's so rare, and slice it. Up till about 4 or 5 years ago, actually about 6 or 7 years ago when I started cooking it like this, I didn't like pork at all. You will love it. And I'll tell you why. Another reason why they lowered the safe temperature, because they don't slop the hogs no more. Nobody goes out in the backyard, where some people do, farmers. They throw their old potato skins and day-old spaghetti or whatever, and the hogs eat it. This hogs are raised in a controlled circumstance. You go in their barns, and they're all wearing lab coats and masks. Everything is washed down clean. They eat a controlled diet. That's why you can eat. I wish you could taste how soft and how tender, I mean, fall apart in your mouth tender. It is just unexplainable on camera. Oh my Lord. That's so good. Let's plate this up and get some sauce on here. I'm telling you, you have to give this a try just one time. Don't overcook it. Stop at 145 internal temp. Let it rest for 3 minutes. Don't forget about that. They want you to do that as well. And man, this is absolutely phenomenal. Sheila was over here a minute and tried it, and she loves it. And she don't even eat rare steak, but she says, I like the pork because it's kind of a lighter color. It's not red like rare steak. So she just had a field day over here with a few of these little pieces. All right, here we go. Here's our sauce that we made from the drippings out of the pan after we seared it up before we put it in the oven, with some cream and some butter. Oh man, some Dijon mustard on there. Wait till you try. You know me, I got my fingers and everything. Wait till you try that, it's fantastic. And I peeled off a little bit of parsley to kind of dress up our plate there. And this is our recipe from yesterday. It's marinated cucumbers, onions, and little cherry tomatoes with a little touch of sugar, some olive oil, a lot of other ingredients. It's phenomenal. The second day it's even better. I will put that recipe at the end of this one so you can find it real easy. And I think it makes the perfect salad to go with our pork from today. How am I looking, Sheila?
Looking good.
Looking delicious, isn't it? We even put in some of them little yellow cherry tomatoes. Now you can use Romas, you can use all that stuff, but that's a whole different recipe. Let me just tell you, today, focus on this. Get yourself a pork tenderloin, not a pork loin, pork tenderloin. Look at that. Oh my goodness gracious. That is such a delicious looking meal. You'll absolutely love it. Get yourself a little cheap internal temperature probe that you can leave in while it's in the oven, because once it goes by 145, it's too bad. So set your internal temperature probe thermometer at 140, and when it hits 140 in the oven, take it out. It'll go to 145, 146, 147. I went 138 and went right to 145, but just to fudge it up a couple safe degrees to make sure you're good to go, 140 will pull it right up there. What do you think, Sheila?
It looks very good.
Absolutely delicious, and it is just that. This is almost too pretty to mess with, so I'm going to get over here on this cutting board one more time. I just cut that with my fork, so tender. There's a few pieces there. Hold on. Oh. Let me take the back end of this fork, get a little of that gravy. If you try any recipe out of the 260 some plus recipes we have, try this pork tenderloin cooked to an internal temperature of 145 or a hair over. Shut it off at 140 in the oven. Let it go on up to 145 plus. Make this sauce in the pan out of the little drippings. This is melt in your mouth, delicious pork tenderloin. I've never tasted something so delicious. And just buy any pork rub in the store, any pork rub that comes in there, just rub some on the outside. Try to look and get something that doesn't have salt as the #1 ingredient. Sear it up first, put it in the oven, we'll let it rest for 3 minutes, slice it, and enjoy the most delicious pork you've ever ate in your entire life. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. We hope you enjoy this recipe, because I know I will as soon as we turn the camera off. And we hope you subscribe to our channel. That's easy. Shotgun Red's face will pop up over here in a little bit. When it does, click on it. Alongside will be a bell or some sort of little indicator. You click on that, highlight all the boxes. That's a notification bell. What that means is I want to see every one of those recipes that Steve and Sheila put together, so send me all of them. And they will if you highlight that little bell or click on it and fill out all the little boxes. And over here, I'm going to put the recipe for this cucumber and onion and tomato salad that's so fresh and so delicious all summer and all winter. It'll be right here at the end of the video. You'll see Red's face pop up. You'll see the recipe pop up. Click on them both, we hope. And is this the most delicious pork tenderloin you ever ate in your entire life? Yes, it is. And if it ain't, it ought to be. I just had to throw that in there. Sheila, did you enjoy this?
Yes, I did.
And if you want to go to our website, you can go over there and snoop around a little bit. You don't have to, but shotgunred.com. It's easy to find. Sheila, thanks for coming over here and trying medium rare pork tenderloin. And she said it was fantastic. And it was, wasn't it?
It was.
I told you, see? I'm moving her over a little at a time, but hopefully you'll throw that thermometer out that you got at home that says safe temperature is 160 for pork. Steak, roasts, and chops, not the ground stuff. That's got to go to 160, but now it's 145, and it has been since 2011. Where have we been? We need to get on board and start cooking more of this. We'll see you next time right here on Cooking with Shotgun Red. And we did a little cooking today, and it's delicious. Trust me, this is melt in your mouth fantastic. Bye-bye for now.